tukar pandangan mengenai berbagai isu di kawasan.
A number of
Pertama,
areas,
penguatan kerjasama,
and
kemudian ekonomi.
the strengthening of
Investor
efforts to
Indonesia.
for economic recovery. Singapore is the largest investor in Indonesia, and January to September 2021, Singapore's investment was $7.7 billion US dollars.
Investasi baru senilai
There is a new investment amounting to $9.2 billion in new energy and renewable energy in Batam and Sumba and new entity, as well as development of logistics port in Tanjung Priok. And investment in renewable energy is part of the Indonesian government's efforts for green economy. And in this retreat, we signed MOUs for economic energy cooperation, MOU on green and circular economy development, and in addition for financial stability, for economic recovery, we also signed a number of cooperation agreements, MOU on financial cooperation, and in November 2021, local currency and swap agreement and bilateral. These agreements have been extended for another year. I also hope that the MOU between the banks, central banks on payments innovation and prevention of terrorism can be signed soon. And in support of safe human mobility, both countries are now finalizing the interoperability platform between the two countries. Secondly, in politics and defense and security, I welcome the signing of agreements between the two countries, exchange of letters between the coordinating Minister of Maritime and Investment, Republic of Indonesia, and Minister for Defense, Singapore, and an extradition agreement. And there's also a realignment of flight region and a commitment to implement the defense agreements. And extradition agreement in the retroactive term will be renewed from 15 years to 18 years as part of the Indonesian law. And as to FIR agreement, the Jakarta FIR will cover all areas of Indonesian territory, especially the area around Riau Islands and Natuna. And going forward, the safety of flights between the two countries, we hope, can be further strengthened under the principle of mutual benefit. And thirdly, education and human capital development. And in this area, this has been a commitment between the two countries for a number of years. And for 2022, we will implement human capital development between the Singapore and the government of Riau Islands, and in the area of food industry 4.0 and supply chain. We hope that this cooperation can be extended to a number of regions, and I welcome the signing of an MOU on human capital partnership arrangement. This MOU will strengthen research and the strengthening of capability of institutions in the concept of a Merdeka campus in Indonesia. And finally, PM Lee also had an exchange of views on a number of issues. Indonesia and Singapore has similarity of views on the strengthening of unity and the ASEAN institutions are ready to face the future challenges. about Myanmar, we are very concerned, and Indonesia and Singapore has shared the same view about the implementation of the 5-point consensus. And this was an agreement reached at high level and has to be respected by everyone. We are also in agreement that the safety and well-being of the people of Myanmar should be the priority, and the human factor has to be pushed without discrimination. We also want ASEAN to be able to face new challenges in the future. And once again, thank you, PM Lee, for this very constructive meeting. And now I respectfully invite Excellency to present his statement. Thank you.
Your Excellency, President Joko Widodo, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank President Jokowi for his very warm hospitality to me and my delegation. Bintan is an apt venue for the Singapore-Indonesia Leaders Retreat, given the strong economic and people-to-people links between Singapore and the Riau Islands province of Kepri. This is my 5th Leaders Retreat with President Jokowi. Our last one was held in Singapore in 2019. Typically, we hold the Leaders Retreat annually, but the pandemic disrupted our plans. Notwithstanding, the President and I have kept in touch regularly. Most recently, we met in October in Rome while attending the G20 summit. But it is still important for us to resume the Leaders Retreat because it is a key platform to discuss and make progress on our bilateral agenda. I'm therefore most grateful to the President and his officials for making these excellent arrangements to host my delegations and me. Today, our bilateral relations take a major step forward. I'm very happy that the President and I have just witnessed the signing of a balanced set of agreements that addresses 3 long-standing bilateral issues between Singapore and Indonesia: the Flight Information Region, the defense cooperation, and the extradition of fugitives. These 3 issues are important to our 2 countries. They've been on our bilateral agenda for several decades. We've worked together and discussed them many times before. At our previous Leaders Retreat, President Jokowi and I decided that it was time to decisively settle these long-standing bilateral issues. We endorsed a framework which would address the needs and interests of both sides. We tasked Coordinating Minister Pak Luhut Panjaitan and Senior Minister and Coordinating Minister Hsien to follow up with detailed negotiations. I'm very glad that we have now achieved what we set out to do. Our 2 sides have reached agreement on these long-standing bilateral matters. When implemented, the FIR agreement will meet the civil aviation needs of both countries and uphold the safety and efficiency of air traffic in a manner consistent with ICAO rules. The Defense Cooperation Agreement will strengthen cooperation between our armed forces and advance our defense relations. The Extradition Treaty will enhance cooperation in combating crime and send a clear, positive signal to investors. In addition, we exchanged letters to agree that these 3 agreements will enter into force simultaneously. What remains will be for both countries to complete our domestic processes to ratify and bring the set of agreements into force. The conclusion of these agreements demonstrates the strength and maturity of Singapore-Indonesia relations. These agreements take into account both parties' interests, represent a good balance of benefits, and are durable agreements for the long haul, designed to last for at least a generation, and create a solid foundation to move bilateral relations forward with confidence and trust. I thank President Jokowi for his leadership and vision, which have brought about this very positive outcome. I also thank Pak Luhut, SMTO, and the officials on both sides for their tireless work and their shared determination to make progress on these long-standing bilateral issues. I encourage the ministers and officials to maintain close cooperation and coordination and implement the agreements expeditiously. President Jokowi and I also discussed the resumption of cross-border travel. Indonesia has resumed tourism travel from Singapore to Bintan and Batam. It implemented a travel bubble to Bintan and Batam, and Singapore will discuss with Indonesia how we can make this bi-directional. And we hope without taking too long. President Jokowi and I agreed to continue discussions also to expand air and sea travel more generally to more destinations in Indonesia. But we have to take into account the COVID situation and in particular the outbreak of the Omicron variant, and we will do so at a pace that both sides are comfortable with, taking into account our respective public health situations. We also reviewed our ongoing bilateral cooperation. As the President noted, Singapore has consistently been Indonesia's top foreign investor since 2014, and despite the pandemic, our investments have grown. At the last leaders' retreat, we signed a bilateral investment treaty which has entered into force. This will build investor confidence and contribute to economic growth and jobs growth. And the Kendal Industrial Park, which President and I jointly opened at our 2016 retreat, is doing well. It has attracted $1.6 billion in investments and will create many thousands of jobs. Our finance ministries and central banks are also strengthening institutional linkages to deepen financial cooperation. And Singapore and Indonesia are at the same time, besides these existing areas, also exploring new areas of collaboration, such as sustainability, the green economy, the digital economy, and human capital development. And I'm happy that our officials are already meeting to discuss cooperation on sustainability. We have formalized cooperation on green and circular economy development, on energy cooperation and exchanges between our students and educators. We also discussed regional developments, in particular Myanmar, where the situation remains serious. We noted that no significant progress has been made implementing ASEAN's 5-point consensus since it was adopted in Jakarta in April last year. We are committed to help Myanmar reach a durable and peaceful resolution in the interest of its people. But it is essential for the ASEAN chair and his special envoy to engage all parties involved. We also need to see progress in the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Singapore will continue to work with the ASEAN chair Cambodia and the next chair, which is Indonesia, and as well as other ASEAN member states on the full implementation of the 5-point consensus and other relevant decisions. I also thank President Jokowi for inviting Singapore to this year's G20 meetings. We look forward to supporting Indonesia's G20 chairmanship and making it a success. We are very grateful that Jokowi has hosted a successful and fruitful leaders' retreat. It shows that our bilateral relationship is in good working order. Our two countries are able to work together in challenging circumstances and resolve long-standing issues in an open and constructive manner. I'm confident that we will build on these strong foundations and develop new areas of collaborations to benefit future generations, and look forward to working closely with the President to take our bilateral relations to greater heights. Terima kasih. Thank you.
The Honorable ladies and gentlemen, you just have been listening for the joint statement from the President of the Republic of Indonesia and the Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore. Now we would like to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Indonesia and His Excellency the Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore.
And you're just listening in to joint statements given by Singapore Prime Minister Loong and Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Now, it comes after their first in-person summit since the start of the pandemic on the Indonesian island of Bintan. Both sides reaffirmed warm bilateral relations and announced new agreements signed after the summit, which were forged from discussions in 2019 at their last leaders' retreat. The agreements signed include realigning the boundary of a specific region of airspace, a treaty for the extradition of fugitives, and greater bilateral defense cooperation. Both leaders also expressed interest in developing greater financial and economic cooperation, as well as green and circular economy developments, among others. On other regional issues, President Joko Widodo expressed that both countries share the same view on the 5-point consensus on Myanmar and expressed hope for ASEAN to be able to face new challenges in the future.